When Ryan's when it's time to begin, it's on the Rewind Around with John Pollock and Wai Ting. The A-Team that makes sense of these things we see in the ring every week on TV. It's Rewind Around for Monday night. Download it Tuesday morning from the Post Wrestling site. It's Rewind Around for Monday night on USA Now on the John and Wai Take the mic.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Rewind to Raw XXX. I am John Pollock alongside Wai Ting here with you on this Monday night. And Wai, hello.
Hey, John, how you doing?
I am doing all right. We have lots to discuss today, but I felt, especially after we talked about this Sunday way, that we should probably start off the exact same way. There was yet another shooting today in California, and I did see you comment on this. It's perplexing. I don't have a whole lot to add beyond the fact that it's frightening how normal this is becoming, where shootings are. It's just it's an occurrence that is no longer it's shocking, but it is done with such regularity, and I don't think you're ever going to have a meaningful discussion about this, a meaningful solution to any of this, because I don't think anyone really wants to address a lot of the issues that this brings up with people, with guns, and it's just, I'm just at a loss. But I was really glad you brought this up last night, and here we are 24 hours later, and California is dealing with yet another shooting.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think, like, you know, so many, you're right. Like it's kind of become normal in the news cycle. I would say for me, it's very unusual to see it happen among like an older Asian community. Like that to me was like what was perplexing. And I mean, not to say it's not perplexing when it happens anywhere else, but I guess it just hits a little closer to home because my mom frequents places like that. You know, it could happen, you know, like in the neighborhood that I grew up in. I just, like you said, John, like I don't know if we can even enter a space to have proper discussion about this sort of stuff at the moment, especially when you're talking about something that has become so politicized as gun control. You and I are Canadians, and not to say we don't have those issues here in Canada, because we do.
Yeah, there's definitely problems up here, but I mean, there are countries that have experimented with, with severe gun reform, and you have seen like what the statistics bear out. But that to me is not something that is going to happen. And I'm not meaning to like isolate the US here, but it is like you look at the numbers, it's staggering. And like it really, with the Uvalde shooting last year, my like at the time 4-year-old came home and was like one day just asking him like what he did at school, and just stating, "Oh, we did our lockdown drill." Like that's what they practice at school. It's not like fire drills like we did. It is lockdown drills that they are doing.
Yeah. There was, I also wanted to mention a shooting at a school in Des Moines today with 2 students killed. Hey, like it's part of the news cycle. Just, fucking awful. Absolutely. All those things. I guess like in particular with, the Asian community, I wanted to speak on is the fact that like at the heart of a lot of this stuff, certainly guns aren't going to help. The availability of guns is certainly not helpful, but it's especially bad when you're dealing with a community that is sorely lacking in mental health services, mental health awareness. Even the discussion, is incredibly foreign, to like people of my parents' generation, for instance. So I'm certain having access to guns is not helpful. And I understand California has like some pretty strict laws, but I suppose, like, you don't necessarily get checked if you're. Anyway, that's a bigger discussion.
It is, and it's not some. I don't mean to simplify this as though this would just cure everything. I think it's a major issue, but I don't think it's the only one. And you open the door for many other discussions that are necessary to have. But I just feel like there is, for people that are very well-meaning, that there are no answers, and that we kind of just sit back and it's a wait until the next tragedy. And they happen in such like when Sandy Hook was not a monumental reform, that was not a line in the sand. To me, it's just look at what we have gone through over the last decade. Like, think about what Columbine was to us in high school, like what that event was. And now it is such a common occurrence. I can't imagine that this is where we have gotten to, but it is where we are. And that goes just beyond like one incident or the other and looking at the specifics. This is just a larger view of an enormous problem. It's
a big problem. Yeah. And can people get, on the same page enough to try to do something about it?
Unlikely, unfortunately. But well, our thoughts are with the victims of all shootings on Monday. We're going to make that transition over to here at the site because we are in the midst of show number 2 of 7 in a row with myself and Mr. Ting. We kicked off our Best of 7 series on Sunday with a review of the New Japan Noah card from Saturday at Yokohama Arena, as well as the Muda Final Bye-Bye event in the same venue on Sunday. So we went through both of those cards that you can catch now on the Post Wrestling Cafe. And then Wai and I are coming back. We've got Rewind Away on Tuesday, Dynamite Wednesday, and Thursday night, a watch along of the 1997 Royal Rumble match. We are going to be jumping on board with Brandon from New Jersey, and we will watch the 97 Rumble from 26 years ago at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, Texas.
I mean, hey man, like a lot of nostalgia on tonight's show. If you're still in a nostalgic mood and want to jump back to the very beginnings of the Attitude Era, jump back with us to January of 1997.
What were these legends doing before poker?
I don't know.
Because that's all they do now is they get together and play poker.
Certainly. Why weren't there any, Raw 5-6 anniversary, like 4-year anniversary shows back then? And who would have been invited, John? Why were there no nostalgia shows back then?
Yeah, it's too bad. You could have had like Ivan Koloff and Bruno Sammartino playing poker in the back, and you could have had maybe you could have had I'm trying to think, Bob Backlund trying to join the Nation of Domination.
Yes, serving the scene for I don't know, Rocky Johnson and Rocky Maivia maybe together. The trial of Rocky Maivia.
Well, that is coming up Thursday night. All members of the Post Wrestling Cafe will have access to Rewind Away, to the Watch Along, as well as Rewind to SmackDown, where we will do our Royal Rumble preview on Friday night, the eve of the Rumble. And then Saturday night, it's Game 7. Wai and I will be live minutes after the Rumble from San Antonio and live on the Post YouTube channel, free for all, and going through the Rumble. And then Sunday, Wai and I are not going to talk to each other.
No. We will be listening to Brandon Thurston along with Chris and Jesse on WrestleNomics Radio.
Yeah, back to a normal start time. The Bills are gone, and Chris's NFL season is done. So it is back to...
they're done. Oh, that's too bad.
They were eliminated. Yeah, the Bengals advanced. So it's John Moxley's team going all the way now. Well, at least to the Final Four.
All right. Okay.
You going with the Bengals all the way? Like the 49ers will maybe...
Bengals or the Niners. Okay, yeah. I'm going to go with the one that comes first in the alphabet, and I guess that would be the number team. So does that make sense?
You can. You have 4 options left. They've got we've got the 49ers and the Eagles and the Bengals and Chiefs. So if you want to go, numerically, the number 4 would come before any letters, correct?
That's what I meant, yeah.
So you're going with the 49ers. All right. I'm going to, who am I going to pick here? Yeah, sure. I'll go with the Bengals then. Bengals and 49ers in the Super Bowl.
You want to place a bet on it? You want to gamble?
No, I don't want to get any James Krause trouble or anything like that. Not that I have any inside information about NFL games, but we can make a wager of some sort.
All right, let's see. Maybe throughout the show we'll come up with something.
Okay.
We'll probably forget, honestly.
We could forget. It's very likely. Lots of shows coming up this week. Alan Farrell will be on with WH Park this Saturday for the long and winding Royal Road. Lots of great stuff. So postwrestlingcafe.com, $6 gets you in the door for all the bonus content. We've got NXT TakeOver New York being discussed on Tuesday. Have you sat down yet to watch TakeOver?
Not at all. No.
Well, you could always rely on your memory of watching the show in the audience, as we did that night in April of 2019.
I didn't realize, but okay.
You were there for this show. Yeah.
Oh wow. Well, tune in tomorrow.
Find out if Wai watched it or if he's just going to guess what happened. He always gets it done. I don't know how, but he does. All right. The latest regarding the Pugh family, and we touched on this a little bit on Friday night, but the last update that they had put out was that one daughter, Gracie, has regained feeling in her lower extremities, and she was able to get up and into a wheelchair. She's off an IV, and Jaylee was able to get into a wheelchair and fitted for a back brace. They were also visited by their brother Gannon, Mark Briscoe, also visiting, and their grandfather, Papa Briscoe, Mike, as well, coming to visit them. Pro Wrestling Tees has put out a special shirt that is in honor of Jay Briscoe. All proceeds from the shirt are going to be going to the Pugh family. And at the last time I checked, the fundraiser is now over $288,000.
291,
Wow.
close to 292,000 right now. So I mean, they're very close to 300,000. Let's, do our best to, at least get past, if not further. Like this, there should be no limit, to something like this, because there's certainly no limit to the pain that this family is going through. So support them. Check out the beautiful shirt as well at Pro Wrestling Tees. As excellent. So reach for the sky here. 100% of proceeds go to benefit the Pugh family.
Yeah, and the family also putting out, on behalf of them as well, like a message about like the other driver that died in this. That has been, a lot of comments on social media attacking like the family and stuff like that. It's like you do not know what the circumstances are, and even if you did, it's like, man, this was a mother as well that lost her life, and I don't think don't so much of this in the wake of this tragedy. I have seen like the best of like online discourse, and it's unfortunate that you have to see this stuff, but I mean that stuff is going to exist. But do keep in mind that there was another driver here, and we do not know we do not know what the circumstances were. It's a tragedy that two people died.
Yeah, no matter what the circumstances were, the woman's family is hurting just every bit as much. I was so saddened to learn that she was a mother of two.
Yeah, she was only 27 years old as well. And it's, don't
awful. The story
and never
just keeps
jump
getting
to
worse.
conclusions on this stuff either. Like, it's just like you don't know. Like Randy Savage, when he died, like his car, like he was driving his car. It's like you don't know what
Heart
happened.
attack.
Yeah, well, I'm saying like in this instance, specific, like we don't know what was happening to her at that point either. And it's like, regardless, like there is a loss of life here, and to respect that, obviously. I've just been really moved by just some of the messages that have come out on behalf of the Pugh family, that it's remarkable how they are handling this, and at least getting a bit of good news with regards to the daughters, and that, movements are occurring, and they've got such a long recovery ahead of themselves, but we continue to wish all the best for them. Did you have a chance at all to see Being the Elite today?
Did not know. I read the recap though on the site.
So this was primarily focused on Jay Briscoe, and obviously rocking Matt and Nick Jackson, and by extension Brandon Cutler, who was traveling with them. And this was in Fresno, so they did not have to fly. It was like driving to the show. So I'm sure very reflective of it. And they did note that last week the tapings in Fresno, for all talent, it was voluntary if you wanted to work or not, based off of the news of Jay. And they were in communication with Mark Briscoe, they mentioned near the end, and it also helped them being around this whole locker room that they all wanted to, so many of them knew Jay Briscoe, and being around each other, I'm sure that was very cathartic for a lot of them. And the Bucks even noted, like, their heads were so elsewhere that when they came out for their tag match with Top Flight, they were introduced as the Trios champions and had forgotten to actually wear their belts out to the ring, which I certainly didn't notice, but that was just an interesting note. But Matt adding the fact that when AEW started from day one, they stated, for this tag division, we need the Lucha Brothers and we need the Briscoes. And they went to bat for the Briscoes, and, we saw the result. They could not get that one through. But it was obviously very difficult for many, many people involved, and the Young Bucks, no exceptions at all. Like, you could see, like, this was very hard for them, just the fact that they had to go out and wrestle 24 hours after this news, and how much of their history is tied with the Briscoes.
Yeah, completely. Again, I'm incredibly, like, impressed at just how much, like, people have good to say about Jay Briscoe throughout the community. It really kind of feels like we often get, like, tributes whenever somebody passes, but, like, this feels like it's gone beyond, just like the sort of, like, customary, hey, like, this person was a really good guy. People are going above and beyond to tell you how much they love this person. So it kind of tells you what you need to know.
Yeah, there was a real reflective moment where the Bucks were discussing after their match the fact that, the industry always goes on, and it's sort of like, they wanted to kind of, like, stop for this. And it does feel in some ways like this is one where it's not just one of those, you watch this person, you knew them from a distance, and we move on. Like, it's one that I certainly held on to a lot of people here, almost a week removed. So anyway, we will keep people updated on that front. We move on over to a report that came out courtesy of Sean Ross Sapp at Fightful, regarding, the outlet learned that a pitch was made for a huge opponent for Stone Cold Steve Austin, which Fightful Select was told is Roman Reigns. And they go on to report, we're told at the very least Austin's camp was approached with the possibility of it happening, which was said to have been for, quote, enormous money. In the summer of 2022, Fightful reported that Austin was approached with a deal that wasn't as appealing from a financial standpoint. Those that we spoke to in WWE claimed that they had not heard back on whether the more recent offer was accepted or not, and another source indicated that another big name was offered to Austin in the months prior. So, Steve Austin's name has definitely, everyone sees linked to WrestleMania this year. And this is obviously going to be, speculative, but if you are looking at Roman Reigns, and let's put The Rock aside here out of those plans, and you are looking at the different options, where does a Steve Austin land for you, Wai, in terms of balancing these cards? And is that a direction that, it's obviously a huge match. Would it be the ideal direction if you don't have that Reigns Rock program to do?
I think from a marquee standpoint, from the standpoint of, like, promoting a match for the people that don't normally, tune into a WrestleMania, the type of people that aren't subscribed to Peacock that might pay attention to this particular match and choose to, pay however much they're charging for it these days. I think it makes a lot of sense. It's, to me, feels like it's probably like the next best thing to, if you're not going to get Dwayne Johnson this year, to a match that could achieve that sort of status and that sort of difference. Obviously, as a wrestling fan, as somebody who watches this stuff week to week, I think the long-term story of Cody going for Roman Reigns is going to be the most satisfying from a storytelling perspective. But WrestleMania is unfortunately not just about satisfying the year-long story. Not anymore, at least. It's about trying to get people to subscribe to Peacock. And as much as, I love Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns, if we don't get Dwayne Johnson, I don't know if it fits the bill as much as Steve Austin. If you have a hand in Steve Austin to use,
Yeah, it's a different path. It's a, you could certainly argue it's the biggest match that they can do, and some might even include like a Rock Reigns match, like what an Austin means in that kind of a profile for the show. And yeah, it certainly is interesting when you are shuffling the deck and where some of these big names land. But I would say, like, for Austin, it's a short list of opponents that you have at your disposal that are big money matches and are also going to be ones that, Austin is going to want to go out there and have the best performance with possible. And Reigns would probably check off those boxes for a lot of reasons. It's certainly a big match. And I think a byproduct of this report is it's going to have speculation for even as early as the Rumble this Saturday of, kicking off an angle or at least a hint in that direction, because you do have to get from A to B where you have to book this battle royal on Saturday with the winner set up with Reigns for WrestleMania.
Right. Yeah. So over the past week, it's been reported that Dwayne Johnson has decided that it's too late to decide.
That unless he is, according to the Observer, unless Dwayne Johnson is keeping this like utterly, secretive, it would seem that like it's looking unlikely, but it doesn't seem like the door is, or at least that it's like 1,000% that you can bank on it. But it's looking like it's a pretty ambitious schedule that Dwayne Johnson has coming up in the near future
with the XFL and everything else. Yeah. So if if you're Nick Khan, if you're Vince McMahon, and if you're Paul Levesque, you've
Vince McMahon's only here to orchestrate a sale.
Oh, never mind.
He doesn't even know WrestleMania is happening this year.
Good point.
Focused on a sale.
Of course. He's got other things to worry about, I guess. But if you're either of those people, if you're at the board of directors in the WWE, you are maybe in your mind you've been playing around at least with the suggestion of The Rock versus Dwayne Johnson. Losing Dwayne Johnson.
I'm sure that's the match Ignace Lahoud really wanted before he left. Maybe that was it for him. Maybe that was. It's like,
Dwayne's not here. I'm gone. Yeah.
Manjeet Singh was like, F this.
But like, you don't have a Dwayne Johnson. This card like really suffers. If that's sort of like the target that you set, and you suddenly don't have somebody on the star power level of a Dwayne Johnson on the show. Again, Cody versus Reigns, at least from that standpoint, from the standpoint of an executive, it's probably just is not as satisfying. So, in that sense, I can really see them, wanting to consider somebody like a Steve Austin to fill that role. If not Roman Reigns, is there another opponent for Austin that you think would be just as good?
I was, a while back we were talking about this, and I thought like this is your chance to do your Austin Cena match. But when I saw that,
who does that serve afterwards?
It's a big match. It's not who's like Reigns and Austin really serving at this point. Like, can Reigns get any bigger than he is at the moment? Can you expand?
You can always get bigger.
Well,
and at least Reigns, he's going to stick around for a few more years. We'll probably, still have a few more years.
Is he going to stick around for a few more years?
Well, okay, fine. He's on it. He might be towards the tail end, but then you can still have him come back repeatedly. He's still on a delayed cycle
how's
that John
match
Cena
ending?
is on.
How's that match ending with Reigns and Austin?
Reigns and Austin?
Yes.
This match. Okay. Well, Roman Reigns. What do you mean? Like, who's winning?
Yeah.
It's going to be Roman Reigns. Yeah. I don't think Steve Austin should be pinning Roman Reigns.
Yeah. I don't know. To me, I would look at Austin as one where I think he's that figure that you do want to have like the really feel good ending to, and beating him at the end of Mania. Like it's certainly the big match to do. If that's what you're looking at, in terms of general interest, like that is going to trump a Cody Rhodes quest for the title.
It could be feel good even if he loses.
You could also do, it's, Austin. It's all in like what is in this guy's head at this moment is once he kind of tore the Band-Aid off last year, now he has gotten through the mental hurdle of I retired and I was done. Now I've done one. I felt good about it. Is this going to be a scenario where, he feels he's got a handful of these left in him? He's not just looking at getting through Mania like he did last year with Owens. Now it's, where we're waiting up until the week, the day of, to figure out like what this guy is going to end up.
He's probably
doing.
watching that Muda card and saying, wow, how old is Austin this year?
God, he is. I'll pull up the age. He's not quite Muda age, as I recall, but not far off. He might be right near it. Let's see.
Yeah. Anyway,
play the age game. What is Austin?
I'm gonna say 55.
He's 58, so he's 2 years younger than Mudo.
Well, listen,
and both have knees that are his knees are probably not as bad as Mudo's, but that's low praise.
I know this guy was
knees are not great.
This dude was on a Bima TV yesterday, paid his fee, and watched Jinsei Shinsaki take that bump from the apron through it over the barricade through the table, and he's like, you know what? I'm only 2 years older than this guy. I could do this stuff. So he's probably inspired, and you know what? 50 is the new 20. Everybody in pro wrestling, all these 50-year-olds are doing like crazy spots these days. So.
Well, I'll tell you who's not is Kurt Angle. Did you see him getting around tonight? That's,
yeah.
I know the guy's off double knee surgery and such, but man, like,
I'm intrigued by Austin versus Roman because I'm very curious to see what that match looks like. Like this Roman Reigns, tribal chief character has been working, to his advantage. Like I think really like slower paced matches that rely a lot on his like, in-ring acting. And I think that's almost like a really nice little canvas for somebody like a Steve Austin. You rely on Austin selling a whole lot more, which would be very different from the match that he had with Kevin Owens. It's interesting.
It's a big match, and again, there's no confirmation that this is happening. Just that it's been pitched. It's an idea that is out there. Kathleen Finch, who is the chairman and chief content officer for Warner Brothers Discovery's U.S. networks, did kind of a Q&A with Deadline, and did speak about both professional wrestling and everyone's least favorite spinoff, Dana White's Power Slap. So she noted that, with the Turner networks, which would include TNT and TBS, she says what works best on those networks is sports and off-network sitcoms. So, sports being a big focus for them. And this is, look at this photo. Imagine tuning into Deadline and you're an executive and this is what you're next to.
I think I'm more like struck by the fact that, so everybody, if you're just listening to this, this is a Deadline article that reads, MILF Manor, Power Slap, Restructure, Tax Write-Offs, and more. Kathleen Finch gets candid on Warner Brothers Discovery's unscripted TV strategy.
Well, I think MILF Manor has a much better trajectory than Dana White's slap fighting.
I guess I'm just like...
Are you watching MILF Manor?
I'm amazed that there is even a TV show called MILF Manor, but I probably shouldn't be, Am I watching MILF Manor? No, okay, I'm not.
Maybe you can do a report for us over the next week. They said they're going to commission around 4,500 hours of content this year. And then when she was asked if she is concerned about Power Slap airing after what Dana White did, and she said, of course, yes. This is an experiment. The understatement of the year. This is an experiment. The goal is we are making shows for our fans. That's who we work for. Fans of wrestling have a lot of overlap with the fans of this, and not that big overlap as we found out last week. And it's huge on social media. So the idea really is if we can take something that's huge on social, bring it to a linear audience, giving the fans what they want. This may surprise you to know, but I did not know much about wrestling before I took this job. I know, I seem like a wrestling fan, but I'm not. But I did have to learn a lot about the audience. A lot of families that watch wrestling. I was very surprised to learn this. I have a huge respect for this audience. AEW Wrestling airs on two of our networks, TNT and TBS. On both nights, it kills. Finding something that speaks to that audience, that would be gold. Now, I would say this is a strong positioning of AEW. Mm-hmm. Also, the idea that this power slap, this is what our wrestling fans crave. This is what they want.
Oh,
it's
these
like,
idiots! They would
they'll
love
watch
people.
any of this stuff.
They love people slapping each other in the face, and
What's
they
a little
don't
brain trauma.
Yeah, they don't care about concussions and things like that. They're savages. These wrestling fans.
Kathleen Finch really outing herself as not a listener here at Post Wrestling, obviously. But nonetheless, I think this power slap thing is going to be a dismal death. I do not see numbers rehabbing after week number 1. I expect them to go down this week, and I think it is just going to. I think they'll get through this run, and I don't know if we'll ever hear Power Slap again. That was a pretty disappointing number for week number 1, and I just see it decreasing from there.
Too bad.
Do you take from this anything that you look at just in terms of AEW's?
Yeah, certainly. Like
I would say like this is certainly, the fact that she is describing this. I mean, Rampage, it kills.
It kills. I mean, could that be a tagline for the show? No, it makes AEW sound great. The fact that it holds a high presence on both of the Turner networks, and you have an executive here really kind of like talking about it as almost a bit of a centerpiece of their lineup. So I think it bodes well for their future.
I would have immediately followed up and asked her, who's your favorite wrestler? And as soon as I hear a pause for 3 seconds, I would have known. It's like, okay, could you imagine?
I'm trying to think like who would be.
I would think she has at least a few names off the top of her head that
like
she's
who?
around this
Like
product.
Who?
Sting, maybe.
She's
got to be familiar with a wrestler or two.
I don't even know if she could name Chris Jericho. This is
3 hours of their primetime schedule.
We know she's following Action Andretti that entire ride. Konosuke Takeshita, I think, seems like right up her alley.
Yeah. She just saw him at Bola have a tremendous performance on night 2. AEW is moving their Winnipeg debut. So this was the week that Dynamite was going to be on a Tuesday night, but because of a change to the TBS schedule, it will now be back on its normal night of Wednesday on March the 15th, giving Wai Ting his birthday off. You are free. And now they are going to be running in Winnipeg on MJF's birthday. As he noted, he has to now celebrate his birthday in Winnipeg.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Well, he was going to be in transit from Winnipeg. Otherwise, I don't know if that's going to be that much better for a birthday.
A Pisces.
So, yeah, the best.
So what are we doing for your birthday? We're going to get together and watch NXT?
Yeah, sure. That'd be fun.
I'll make you a coconut drink.
I would love that. What did you make yesterday?
Yesterday I made on Saturday I made a amaretto sour.
Okay. It looked lovely. And I'm trying to actually show it off here on screen, but
I sent you a photo of this, I believe.
It's gonna take too long, and it's probably not worth all this waiting. So.
Hey, which other one of my family members texted you recently?
Your daughter sent me this text.
She sent you a video and some text that was actually semi-readable.
Yeah. So I'm texting John, I was at the bank today, dealing with some. I was at the bank for 2 hours, trying to do stuff. It's impossibly slow to get things done sometimes. And then I'm texting John with an update with a very serious kind of business related email. And then I get this in response that our viewers watching can see.
With a video too. She sent the video to you too.
Yeah, she wrote, "Yup. Y space TV B in HD period."
Oh my gosh, that's like a code. This is more interesting than the White Rabbit stuff.
Fed WAX S capital A S square bracket 8 exclamation B dot TV ZHJKL yeah.
So
she's speaking. She's made up her own language. This is very impressive.
So she didn't want to go out in the middle of the day. So I was watching her for a half hour or so, and then she wanted to watch Paw Patrol on my phone. So I set this up on her phone, and she goes and sits on the stairs and is watching Paw Patrol. And it's an hour later, I go to text you, and I pull this up, and I'm like, "What the hell is this?" And then I realized that she has somehow managed to send you this, and I'm just in awe that she was able to send you. She's 2, and she sent you a video and texted this, and of all people, it went to you as well.
I think you have, a bit of a prodigy on your hands. Somebody who
she can already read decently.
Wow.
Yeah, it's rather wild. She can
she
had this children's book. She pretty much read it to me the other night.
Will you be fostering this newfound skill of hers? Will you be showing her how to change
Text?
her wallpaper on the phone? And I don't know.
She might know. She's pretty good with electronics already. Like she can manage Netflix. She knows how to.
Does she want to take over the social media for post wrestling?
We might not be that far away. There was one day where I couldn't get Netflix to work, and she's like, "Daddy, reboot. Daddy, reboot." I'm like, I don't know how to reboot this. So she takes the remote. She reboots the TV. She holds down this button, and incredible. She rebooted the TV. I was like, I didn't know you could do that.
Make sure she's not listening to this conversation and you know think we're like, you know, like talking about her as if like she's probably capable of way more than even just that. She probably knows the code of like that Roku.
Yeah. Anyway, she is going very fast when it comes to technology, which is both frightening and impressive at the same time. So March 14th, Way is off. March 15th, Winnipeg, Dynamite. Last thing here, NXT on Tuesday night, we've got a few announcements. It is Katana Chance and Caden Carter, a 2-on-1 handicap match defending the tag titles against Elba Fire. So maybe Elba Fire will pick up a partner at some point. It's Tiffany Stratton against Indy Hartwell. And I know you always love these segments, Way. It's a women's championship summit involving Roxanne Perez, Gigi Dolan, and JC Jane. They're going to have a summit.
Is it with the legends? Like at a round table? Is that what a summit is?
No, this is just the three of them in a ring together. It's a promo.
Oh, okay.
And Dynamite Wednesday, Darby Allin against Buddy Matthews for the TNT title, Jungle Hook against Ethan Page and Matt Hardy, Triple Threat, Tony Storm, Ruby Soho, and Britt Baker, Bryan Danielson against Brian Cage, Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara against Action Andretti and Ricky Starks, and Family Therapy involving the Guns and the Acclaimed from Lexington, Kentucky at the Rupp Arena. And that is Dynamite on Wednesday night.
We've had a string of excellent Dynamites lately, so we'll see if this one carries that trend. Maybe a string of great wrestling TV period this entire week.
Well, Way, it has been 10 and a half years since Raw expanded to 3 hours, and we have had many a discussion on what makes a great 3-hour wrestling program. Can it be done? Some say it's just too long. That is the most frequent comment I get from people over this last decade when it comes to professional wrestling on television. I don't know what the magic formula is, but 4 matches in 3 hours, where one of those hours is commercial free, that is not the formula. That's what I learned tonight. That is not the formula.
I really liked this show. I enjoyed it. I also did not watch it live. Like I watched it skipping a lot of the commercials, and I understand like whenever they do a commercial-free first hour, they backload it like crazy because I had to press, you know, the fast forward button a lot longer than usual. But I overall really enjoyed the show.
I enjoyed the first, I would say 90 minutes of the show. I thought it was going really well. I found the second half to be extremely slow, and it just felt as though the show was ready to wrap, and they didn't have a whole lot to wrap it up with. I found it to be a pretty challenging last hour. Not that anything was terrible. By comparison to that Raw 25 from 5 years ago,
no comparison.
This was WrestleMania X7 in comparison. That was a dreadful, awful show in 2018. So they were at the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Huge crowd. I think just under 14,000 people altogether. So this was a massive ticket seller for the company and the host city for next year's WrestleMania.
Okay.
Hulk Hogan and Jimmy Hart start the show. If you were only listening, you would have no idea Jimmy Hart was there because Samantha Irvin only introduced Hulk Hogan. Dude, Samantha Irvin is like one of the best ring announcers, period. Mm-hmm. She is great. She doesn't get enough.
Was it her? Was it her?
I thought it was, wasn't it?
Because like, isn't Raw? Oh, I forget the other person's name.
It's usually Mike Rome, isn't it? On
No, it's Please correct me if I'm wrong, chat room. I mean, I could have sworn
I thought it was Samantha Irvin is the SmackDown announcer, but I could have sworn it was her.
Okay, all right, you could be right.
Anyway, so Hulk Hogan comes out. Jimmy Hart is just there, and Hulk Hogan, his mic starts cutting in and out, and they have to have a guy come out and switch microphones. And his message was that Raw started a long time ago. Go Eagles, what you gonna do? And Hogan was out.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, no, he was placed in here Jordan Goodman made a good point about how, the pop was largely for the music, like no matter how you feel about Hulk Hogan, I think
It's also the first person out as well of the whole night.
we can agree that, that song it will always be a banger. And then they just it went straight to him, came out here, said a few words that you couldn't hear because of the mic issues, changed the mic, got the cheap pop for the sports team, and then got the fuck out of there. So this was Hulk Hogan. You and I had discussed this and felt like if there was anybody that the crowd might be turning on of the announced legends, like he was probably going to be the most likely candidate. And the way it came across was just like overall like pretty normal, like positive reaction.
And to be quite honest, like I even if they had put him in later in the show, like I really don't think he would. There might have been a pocket of people, but I really don't think like there was going to be too much negative response to Hogan. But it's always possible. I would look at this list of legends. He is probably the one that if an audience was going to turn on someone, Hogan I guess would be your candidate.
Yeah, this was not the Titus O'Neil WrestleMania hosting gig. This came across a lot better for Hulk Hogan, and I think probably shows them this is how we should use Hulk Hogan from this point on.
Well, I don't know what that says about what you're getting out of Hulk Hogan. Like this was so nothing. It was just welcome to the show was pretty much it. I don't know how much value there is of this.
There might be some value in in his face being the first one that people see for people that used to watch wrestling when they were young, and they're like, oh, there's that guy who I heard some pretty bad things about, but nonetheless I remember from my childhood. But I mean, it's really interesting seeing Hulk Hogan on TV in the same week that we've been having the discussion about Jay Briscoe, because here we have a lot of talk about growing from your mistakes and being authentic in your apology. And I think over the past week, we found somebody who is every bit sort of a representative of a redeemed person coming off of prior mistake. And when I think of Terry Bollea, I still don't get that. Now, again, not my apology to accept, and I think a lot of people at this point have forgiven it or have forgotten it. But
I think the argument would be is that when he did talk about it, I don't think people got that sincere apology.
Oh, you had criticism from Titus and
when he did the meeting backstage at a WWE event, the word that came out of it was his warning was, in this age of social media, watch out, you could be recorded. I was like, that would not be the lesson. Yes,
don't get caught, everybody. I'm the victim here.
But it's like looking at you can look at from it was a pretty low thing that this guy got recorded without his knowledge, but that does not absolve what he said in private. I mean, yeah, you have a right to privacy. That right was violated.
But that would be like Dana White complaining about, fuck the guy who recorded me, rather than
Roger Sterling. It's your privacy was certainly invaded, but that.
And thank goodness it was.
It's you do not get a pass because of the fact that it was a private conversation you were having. I don't know if that's the lesson you come away with. I think, you are going to be left a bit empty when it comes to forgiveness from some. At the same time, I do believe it is a time to, if you are, especially the people that were directly the target of his comments, to make that decision of, if you are somebody that, believes someone is, that you forgive them. There's also those that, they're going to be a lot more easy on figures that they admire and industry stuff that they enjoy. If you are a major wrestling fan, that you're not going to allow those comments to inhibit your fandom of a guy.
Sure, and it's at this point where we have to talk about Chris Benoit matches sometimes in Rewind Away whenever those come up. We've never shied from talking about we've been we at least are sometimes, especially for the old reviews, able to separate the performer from the performance. And is Hulkamania the type of thing, Hulk Hogan itself, the character, is it big enough that somebody could still continue to enjoy tonight, which was very much just, our memories of the Hulk Hogan character, and still feel a certain way about Terry Bollea, the performer. Is that normal to feel?
It all depends on the individual. I think it's a horrible stain on his legacy, but I think as well it's like Hulk Hogan as well sort of like manufactured this reputation as somebody that had all, like, he came across as somebody that I don't think came across genuine in the public eye. He would be often like the furthest thing from it. Like, this was somebody that said one thing but meant another. So I mean, it's kind of, the audience does not know this individual on a personal level, so they're left to sort of look at the public image that they are, and is this someone that that you feel was genuinely remorseful or not? And it doesn't feel like this is something like that Hulk Hogan feels the need to address beyond what he did a couple of years ago.
Well, when you speak about the, I guess, lack of authenticity, I mean, that's maybe something that you and I, who are privy to, like, I don't know, some of the stories regarding him off screen, that's how maybe you and I might feel. But I would say maybe the vast majority of people who know Hulk Hogan, including the people that might be in attendance, only know him from, say your prayers, eat your vitamins, and, slamming Andre, like the warm, fuzzy feelings that one would associate with a childhood idol. And everybody gets to make up their own mind, but I only bring up the conversation because I think it's incredibly interesting that we got a national TV spot for Hulk Hogan and not Jay Briscoe. But at the same time, we've been saying a whole lot this past week about, forgiveness. And
dude, for what we're arguing here with like Jay Briscoe, like Hulk Hogan was completely exonerated by WWE in the sense he was brought back to television. He's been brought back as a legend. He's a celebrated figure. Like, tell me what are the consequences that Hulk Hogan truly underwent beyond, he was fired from Tough Enough as a judge, but he was brought back and he
suffered the Dana White consequence of the label. That's probably what, he would say.
Yeah, and that's it. So, listen, when the story is written on Hulk Hogan, like he is going to be a celebrated figure for many people, but that is going to be brought up is, the content of that video. Like, that is a part of his history. I feel for many, though, it will not be the defining part of Hulk Hogan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that was it. We went into the same video they ran with our what did you think about the overplay of "I'm Good"? Were you sick of the song by the end of the night? How much
John,
did they restrain themselves?
I've been sick of that song for 20 years. Okay, so
but this is a remix of it.
I mean, I was sick of it before it was even made. Man, I wish we had our friend Elliot here, because like he said he like once spoke to an Italian, and the Italians have a name for that song, for Eiffel 65, who are an Italian group, and it roughly translates to
classic.
No, it translates to the shame of Italy.
Well, man, in his hometown, I think Blue Meanie coming out to Eiffel 65 would have been a nice tie-in.
Sure, why not? That would have been nice. With JBL, maybe. In a poker game.
Yeah, they're friends now. The Bloodline comes out, and Corey Graves compares Roman Reigns to Bret Hart, who was leading a new generation as champion when Raw launched. But Bret was not showing up for this. Maybe I'll see you guys in 10 years.
Didn't get the call. Or maybe he'd have got the call.
He might have gotten the call.
Yeah.
I could certainly have seen him getting the call for this. So this is the trial of Sami Zayn. And this was like a half hour. So it's commercial free.
Yeah. Can we talk about them changing this?
Yeah, this was going to be the Bloodline, all the generations represented, and then they flipped it over the weekend to announce that it was instead going to be Sami Zayn going on trial after the events of SmackDown, where Roman Reigns got put through the table by Kevin Owens.
Is there anything like deeper you care to look into that decision?
I don't think, like, for people looking to like tie it into like something with The Rock, I don't believe that would be the case. I think that this was just a change. I had seen that it was appearing that like Rikishi, Alpha and Sika were not going to be able to make it. So I think that more than anything, like I wasn't expecting Rock to ever be part of this segment. So I don't think his involvement was going to affect this. But if Alpha and Sika and Rikishi all couldn't make it, well, then it kind of defeats the purpose of the multiple generations.
Right.
So we got ECW chants at the beginning, and Heyman kind of plays off of it, saying that ECW is dead, and it's the same, I think, Sami Zayn should be as well. Heyman has completely turned on Shmuley, and he is going to be the prosecution against Sami Zayn. Stating in Samoan language, he's an Mbula Banabala. He's a Judas.
Pretty good. How many times did you have to rewind to get that?
A few, more than one.
Pretty good.
And then, like, this audience, they want to cling to ECW Paul, and he's really pushing them. But then he says that the Philadelphia Eagles will get conquered by Brock Purdy of the 49ers. And this, fuck you, Paul. You will never be embraced again by Philadelphia. So Heyman has 4 pieces of evidence that will prove Zayn is guilty as charged, as Paul Heyman dug down for his old pay-per-view voiceover voice. Exhibit A, August 12th of last year, when Drew McIntyre attacks the Usos backstage and Zayn just hightails it. August 29th, Zayn gets a chair ringside, hesitates to hit Owens with it, and ends up costing Jay the match. Then at Survivor Series, there's the Bloodline in victory, but Sami Zayn is gloating, sitting on top of the cage, and gives a 4 life sign, which I don't think anybody caught, beyond Paul Heyman, who asked, "What are we, the NWO?" That was a sign. That was a signal for Kevin Owens. And then December 23rd, a Zayn promo where he brushes past Roman Reigns in the ring. Assault on the tribal chief. What's next, Sammy? Are you going to perform euthanasia on his father? Are you going to castrate his son? That was an assassination attempt on the tribal chief to try and become the new leader. If nothing else, you are guilty of assault, and I find this rat bastard guilty as charged.
I feel like it's been said, many a time that, I mean, in another lifetime, I think Paul Heyman would have made a small fortune as a star lawyer.
I mean, this was his education through watching his father. I mean, this is his wheelhouse.
There you go. He was absolutely tremendous here, and I think the footage that they have in the poll told you everything you need to know. Like, I mean, it ultimately everything here is in service of baby facing Sami Zayn, and clearly it relied on the heel to really stretch in order to find some of this evidence. I thought it was hilarious.
This rat bastard. Zayn is so hurt that Heyman has done this to him. And he says that it hurts him that you would put me on trial after all that I've done to prove my loyalty. So my defense is I have no defense. So Reigns gets upset and asks if it's his ego that won't let him fight for this. You won't even argue? And he calls on Solo. And Solo is going to have to perform the hit. And he goes behind Sami Zayn and he pulls out the Samoan spike. But before he can off Sami, Jay Uso comes to the rescue of Sami Zayn. And Jay was up all night on his Avid as he put together the defense for Sami Zayn. And his exhibits include June 3rd of last year, when Riddle was taking on Jay, and Zayn played Roman's theme to distract Riddle and leading to Jay's win. August 19th, Zayn takes the bullet for Jay, eating a Claymore. Then September 9th, doing the same for Solo when he takes a chair shot from Drew. December 9th, holding on to Sheamus, allowing the Usos to beat Sheamus and Butch. And then the low blow and haluva kick delivered to Kevin Owens at War Games. Jay argues that Zayn has taken bullets for everyone. He's bulletproof. I didn't trust Sammy. I despised you. But you saw the good in me, and you never gave up on me. That's what family does. Sammy, I love you like a brother. So if you're voting to keep Sammy in the bloodline, put your ones in the air. And Jay and Jimmy vote to keep Sammy in. The crowd is chanting Sammy Uso, and Reigns, the judge, rules that Sami Zayn is not guilty for now. And Sami, you should thank Jay for buying you more time. Finish out tonight, make us proud, and then I don't want to see you until the Royal Rumble on Saturday. And that is where you will have to pass the final test to determine if you really are part of the bloodline or not. This was the first half hour of the show. It was awesome. They could have gone the first hour, and I would have enjoyed this. This was tremendous.
It was absolutely fantastic. Yeah,
it was like riveting stuff, and I do not use that word too often.
And you know, given like the late change, I mean, you really do wonder how much time they had to come up with it all. You know, could have fooled me, like, you know, that they didn't come up with this, you know, way in advance, because it was of good quality. High quality. I think what has made this program stand out above so many other, you know, ones we typically see in professional wrestling is, I think, some like relatively strong acting ability, you know, in the star players here, in Paul Heyman, in Roman Reigns, and especially in Sami Zayn, and I think especially in Jey Uso, who, man, you know, like ever since like he's kind of made up with Sami Zayn, he's taken a bit of a back seat. Like he doesn't have as much to do now that his kind of story has been resolved. But I think it was wonderfully poetic here that he was the one, the most vocal anti-Sami Zayn person in the group is now the best friend, the one who is most pro Sami Zayn, you know, staying up all night on his editing machine, you know, putting together those wonderful clips. In terms of performance, I think all of them bring out the best in each other. And, you know, like week after week now, they've been using the bloodline a lot, both on Raw and on SmackDown. And ultimately, what do we really gain? Like, usually things just kind of typically return to the status quo. As many times as they might, you know, tease Roman being angry at Sami, usually by the end of the week, by the end of the episode, it's like, okay, they're a strong unit together again. We're kind of going in circles until, you know, we get to Mania, whatever. But I'm never dissatisfied watching a Bloodline segment because the performances are so good. You know, they're just so entertaining and they're just fun. You know, so, but I would say overall, what you are doing throughout all these segments is, I think you continue to babyface Sami Zayn really well. Yes, he's part of a heel group, but all of his motivations are completely genuine. All he wants to do is please the tribal chief and feel a sense of belonging in this family that may not necessarily want him, but they're doing a good enough job to convey that to the audience that we want him to succeed.
So the way they position this is that Sami Zayn is not supposed to be on SmackDown. So I guess they could always do something where he pops up, but the idea was, I don't want to see you till Saturday. Do you leave this expecting Sami Zayn in the Royal Rumble, or have they done enough that people do not expect that and there's any kind of letdown if he's not in it?
Yeah. I think we're looking at a Daniel Bryan situation potentially here. If you don't make it explicit that he's not going to be in the Rumble, people might end up cheering for him. Like, you know, when you get down to number 30,
and the person that will be most affected by that, if that is ambiguous, is Cody Rhodes.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah. So I think they have to make it like pretty clear if he's not going to be in the Rumble. Like maybe he gets taken out earlier in the night. But yeah, they haven't stated his entry, and I don't know if there's a purpose in putting Sami Zayn in the Rumble.
Maybe that's the final test, is that Sami Zayn has to show his loyalty in the Royal Rumble.
But I mean, the feud is Kevin Owens. The story is Kevin Owens.
Yeah. No, and it's that kind of makes no sense either. Like, if he's in the Rumble, it's either...
They could shoot an angle at the Rumble, like, I don't know, maybe after the match, and say, like, okay, final test. You know, win the Rumble. Yeah, I don't know. But like if you're laying out the Rumble to tell the Cody story, I don't know if Sami really has a place in it.
So our first match was the Usos against Damian Priest and Dominic for the Raw tag team titles. They work over the lower back of Jimmy after he takes a pounce onto the desk. Finn Balor gets ejected, and Jay goes for the Uso splash, but is cradled by Priest. And then Jimmy hits the Uso splash, getting a 2 count. Jimmy injures his knee in the process, landing on the floor, and he ends up needing help to the back. So Adam Pearce is out, stating, if you can't continue, then the titles are forfeited and you lose the match. So Sami Zayn offers to take Jimmy's spot. And this was a great callback to the tag turmoil from 2 weeks ago. And Pearce notes, I did this for the Judgment Day. Like, this was not they came up with some wacky new rule. Like, this completely ties in with what you did 2 weeks ago. So Pearce approves it, and it is now Jay and Sami defending the tag titles. So Zayn just fires up, tope con hero onto both men, exploder to Dominic, and then is hit with South of Heaven by Damian Priest. Jay then stops a 619 with a super kick, delivers one to Priest, but then Rhea's in the ring and he holds up and won't super kick her, and Rhea is goading him to strike her. Dominic then drop kicks from behind, hits the 619 and frog splash, but in comes Zayn to save Jay, and they hit the 1D on Dom, and Zayn gets the pinfall, winning it for the team.
Yeah. I thought this was really awesome.
This is like an hour of the Bloodline to start Raw, commercial free.
And I thought it all built on each other. You know, like the fact that I think this match came across so well is because you've done such a great job in the first segment building the audience's desire for Sami Zayn to, again, want to achieve his own personal goal of pleasing this family. So now you put, first of all, I thought Jimmy did a great job with the dive, like, you know, and purposely landing on that foot, like had me kind of convinced there at the beginning to think that could have been real. Obviously it was, you know, all done to set up this wonderful angle. And now you put Sami Zayn in a situation where he gets to prove himself. You know, he gets to make good on, you know, what has already been in doubt in the tribal chief, and what Jey Uso kind of like went out of his way to, you know, put his own reputation on the line to prove his loyalty and his worth to the bloodline. Now we get to see that story like embodied in the result of this match. And I was so captivated in particular because I thought this was where he was going to fuck up and he was going to lose the titles for the Usos. You know, just in a time where like Jay was like so like, you know, into Sammy, like you deserve to be a part of my family. Then he fucks up and gives Roman that much more motivation. So this is all to say, like, I really believe that we could have had a title change here, you know, especially because we're closer to Mania, and because the Judgment Day are so hot. But they went the other direction. They're keeping both belts on the Usos. I just thought, like, the heat was tremendous here. You put the focus in the match on the guy that this arena cheered for the loudest all night. I thought it was great.
Ben Reigns notes in the locker room, in the office, that he still doesn't want to see Sammy until Saturday. JBL and Baron Corbin show up and they meet with the Godfather, who is running the poker game. And he asks JBL, "Who's this stooge you're with? Barry Corbin?" And they're not on the list. So in comes Ron Simmons out of the APA office, and they state they're not on the list. He also calls Corbin a stooge, and then they pay off Simmons and the Godfather, and they get admitted into the most exciting poker game in Raw history.
So, I mean, poker, like, it feels like it's a setting they've just used. Didn't we have a poker game recently?
Yeah,
like
with JBL and Corbin. Yeah, where Loomis lost or won the money.
Yeah, that one was whatever. This one at least had a purpose. You know, the poker game was the APA's thing. And at least, like, I think it made sense in that sense. It's too bad that they've overused it, you know, in the past. But I liked it a lot more here. I think the door gag, you know, was really nicely revealed. And you had a little APA reunion between Farouk and Bradshaw. I'm
fine with doing the APA reunion, but this poker, it just felt like, okay, here's our way to get everybody on. Like, this was just... Like, that was just it. It was, I don't know. I don't need to see any more poker games in pro wrestling. I think I'm pokered out. Throughout the night, we got photo montages of the various, with the various Raw themes underneath them. There was one where they just, the last shot was Vince McMahon's exploding limo, and it just stayed on that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so.
Yeah. Did you notice any, I don't know, any out of the ordinary sort of appearances in terms of Vince?
I mean, on this show, the last poker game, that was like a Hunter thing, so you can't really necessarily assign that. I will say, like, the handling of some of these legends is just like geeks. That was certainly a Vince thing, and there were some that came across like that on this show.
I would actually contend the opposite. Like, I feel like often, you know, during the Vince nostalgia shows, it always ended with, like, the legends taking too much of the spotlight.
Oh, this was definitely not the legends taking the spotlight.
No.
I just meant to say the legend, I would say more on this one, they made them feel insignificant in a lot of different ways on this show. Maybe too insignificant.
I don't know if I agree with that. Like, I think in many ways, like the role of a legend, you know, on these sort of shows is to, you know, certainly not bask in the spotlight, not take the spotlight, but to enlarge the spotlight, you know, for the current roster. And I feel like in many cases they successfully achieved that.
In some they did. In others, I feel like there is an audience that wants to see some of these stars that were stars from like a generation ago feel like it. And I think in some they just felt like nothing.
I'm curious, like what examples as we go through the rest of the show you felt.
I'll bring them up. You know, this poker game would be an instance of one. Though I'm not arguing that like Diamond Dallas Page and Medusa were huge deals, but just. I mean, if I brought that up, you would be, I think, scratching your head even remembering they were on the show. We'll also bring up whatever happened with the Bella twins, because they apparently posted a video of why they did not appear on Raw tonight.
Oh, yeah.
So you can go up at postwrestling.com. Andrew has a video, actually, that the Bellas posted. Maybe we can play that after.
Were they actually present?
They were there, yes.
Oh, interesting.
Anyway, it was
okay.
They explained why they were not used on the show. LA Knight is out and calls Bray a grown-up incel living on past glory. And the legends here tonight are living on past glory, and asks any of them to come out for a preview of the Pitch Black match. So the Undertaker's gong hits, but then it turns into American Badass. It's Mark Calloway coming out to Kid Rock. The marriage, everyone just wanted to see one last time. Dude, Undertaker came out on this motorcycle. This had to have been the slowest ride of the man's life. It was just like, I don't even think this thing was on. He was just like Fred Flintstoning it down the ramp.
Yeah, like a toddler. Like,
it was like, so slow, like the way he's going down here. It's like, is he even going to make it around the whole ring?
I think you're hilarious, and I know you're tinging this with like, you know, a hint of sarcasm. I fucking love this. Okay, I'm not gonna let you ruin this for me, John, because I didn't know I was nostalgic for the American Badass Kid Rock entrance of the Undertaker. Like when the gong hit, I thought, oh, okay, yeah, like the Undertaker shows up, great. You know, like I could fast forward this. You know, I'm already like, you know, behind watching the show, but then he came out to the Kid Rock with the motorcycle. It's been 20 years since I've seen this entrance, and I watched every second of it. It couldn't have been slow enough. I really enjoyed it.
All right. Well, he comes out on the motorcycle, and LA Knight brings up the comments Undertaker made on Joe Rogan about the locker room being soft, and he agrees. And the softest one is Bray Wyatt, and jokes about how LA Knight is going to make the Undertaker go see the Undertaker, and then he decides, I'm going to give you a pass and let you live to see another day. And I'm going to be the Lord of Darkness after the Rumble. Dude, I thought LA Knight was pretty great here.
He was great.
I'm watching this. I'm like, I'm way more interested in this guy than I am Bray Wyatt by a mile.
Can we say like this was the biggest stage, you know, LA Knight has probably ever had, like on Raw?
Big segment with The Undertaker? Yes. If this guy was younger, his age is the only thing working against this guy. That he is one of the best talkers in this company, and I thought he was great in this segment as the foil for the Undertaker, and someone that is bulletproof. Like he could take a tombstone, a choke slam, and he's fine. This guy, just give him a microphone, he'll be fine.
His current like aspirations are like, at least like realistically, is probably not like WrestleMania main eventer. His current aspiration and his ceiling at the moment is the Miz, okay? And he's going to do everything he can to be the best Miz possible. And I thought he absolutely did that here.
This guy doing a talk show every couple of weeks, I think would be great.
Yeah. He like, I thought like held his own and felt like a strong presence in the ring with The Undertaker, which I'm assuming is not a very easy feat at all.
So the lights go out, and of course, LA Knight is scared of the dark, and the lantern appears behind him. It's Bray, and Knight backs up into the ring. Taker grabs him by the throat and then hands him off to Bray for the Sister Abigail, and then the two lock on eye to eye, and Undertaker whispers something into his ear, and this, I'm certain, will be a meme that everybody will caption.
What do you think he said? Chat room, let us know. What do you think he said here? Hey, buddy, speed this program up. It's been 2 months.
The promos could use some work. And then he exits. That was it. Like, I thought this was actually one of the best segments involving any of like your legends that you were bringing back. It was something in trying to promote this Rumble match that I don't think anyone cares about. It was sort of like the endorsement of one supernatural character to the other, who is also a biker in his part-time life. This was a good segment, and the audience went nuts for the Undertaker. Like, he got one of the loudest reactions on the show.
Yeah, and it refreshed the Undertaker, by giving us a different entrance than the one we've, seen for a lot of years now by this point. I thought it was perfect use of a legend's presence to, again, expand the spotlight and shine attention onto a current program and current characters. I thought LA Knight tremendously benefited in terms of stature, in terms of, I think, just, his overall, presence in like a WWE fan's mind by being a part of this segment. His delivery was fantastic. I thought Bray came across well in the face-to-face, and Taker came across great. In no way was he exposed. It was just simply, come out here, don't say a word, look cool, and then whisper some sweet nothing into Bray Wyatt's ear. So
how cool can you pull off wearing your own talk show t-shirt to the ring? Like, that is like a level of security that few would have. Like,
you pulled off a post-wrestling t-shirt.
I've never worn these. I've never worn these before, but maybe I could try it. Maybe this will give me that confidence. Yeah. I will say this, comparing to that 2018 25 show, in that era, on that show 5 years ago, it's Undertaker laying out LA Knight, not Bray Wyatt.
Completely. Absolutely. And that was the difference here,
Yes.
I would contend that this was the best segment in this feud, and that's actually not even a question.
What's number two?
I would contend that this was the only good segment in this entire feud.
So we have that. That's our go-home segment for the Pitch Black match. So that is it. We go back to the poker game. Alpha Academy's playing with DDP, Medusa, who, instead of money, she's putting the women's title on. Like, this poor woman just can ever get away from this women's title controversy that, I mean, how many people care about? She's got a book coming out, by the way, in March with Greg Oliver.
And what do you think the cover will be? Oh, you already have it. Okay.
There we go.
Okay, well, I thought for sure it'd be her throwing something in.
No, I don't think she wants the. I don't think she enjoys doing all this women's title stuff and the garbage can. I think she would much rather just move on from it.
Who wants to be known for? I mean, whatever.
And Diamond Dallas Page, who I swear, if you were not a WCW fan, this guy was one of the most over stars in 1998.
I mean, I'm surprised he didn't, hang out with Dexter Lumis and to talk about stalking. That's really his Raw legacy, isn't it?
Oh, man. Yeah. I don't think Sarah was making a cameo on this show. So anyway, Medusa thinks she's won, but Paige wins with like a full house.
Yeah, this was pretty pointless. I mean, really just to kind of show their faces, I guess.
That was it. That was our whole involvement of Medusa and Diamond Dallas Page. So I hope the catering was great. I hope they got a great trip.
Was this why the Bellas couldn't get on?
Why don't you? Do you have the video? Do you want to play it? I haven't seen the video. I just read the transcript, but
I'll load it up later after the next recap, which won't be long.
No, it's the big steel cage match, a week in the making for a feud that's been going on since the summer. It's Bayley and Becky Lynch. This is like a Monday night at Madison Square Garden. It's the blow off in the old territory era, and down comes Bayley. And Kai and Sky jump Becky before she can enter. The door is swung in Becky's face, and they use a chain to lock the door. It's 3-on-1, and she's left laying as Adam Pearce comes down. They open up the door with bolt cutters to check on Becky, and there's no match.
Yeah.
Couldn't squeeze this one in.
This was very disappointing. I mean, I'm not that it's like,
I thought there was a chance they would close. Granted, you had the big Lesnar angle at the end. I thought there was a chance they would close the show with this and just have the distinction of like the blow off to this feud, having the women headline a major milestone edition of Raw, and instead you got the complete opposite. Where I don't know, this is the first time we have seen Hunter do this of.
Bait and switch,
basically. Bait and switch. Like, this was clear bait and switch for a week. I mean, some people are going to be more relaxed on TV, but like this was all week you promoted this cage match and like the blow off to this feud. And I don't even know why you're holding it off, as I guess they just want to do it on another week.
like unless there's some sort of extenuating circumstance that's preventing this to happen that we don't know about.
I can't imagine there was an injury given the fact that they were doing like this level of physicality. Like that, I don't think like that would have been an excuse that you would have been fine with, but that did not appear to be the case here.
You presume they might be saving it for another show. We just, spent the last day talking about one of the best no contests ever.
Well, we got the worst.
Similar kind of booking in Kazuchika Okada and Kaito Kiyomiya with their brawl from the Noah versus New Japan show that we encourage everybody to check out. It was fucking awesome. And part of the reason why that no contest was so awesome is because they never do them. WWE does this like every other week. And when it happened here, I mean, you could do nothing but groan. The intensity and the beatdown obviously was nowhere near, what it was for Okada and Kiyomiya. And, like, despite the fact that we didn't get a finish in that Okada Kiyomiya match, I think you leave that segment feeling like you saw something novel, something worth your time. And that was to see, like, Kazuchika Okada reach a different level of anger that you've never seen him before. In many ways, more significant than just a typical match. Here, it was really nothing. It was, by every, definition,
it was,
a skippable
we don't want to
segment.
do this match tonight, and this is our way out of it. Like, that's
Yeah.
what it felt like. It was like booking around something we don't want to do on this date at this time. SmackDown on Friday, they promoted Owens and Solo Sikoa, Rey Mysterio against Karrion Kross, and then we've got the semifinals of the tag team tournament. So that's in Laredo, Texas, the night before the Royal Rumble.
I can't load this right now, so I don't
it's okay.
care
Don't
anymore.
worry about it. Well,
by the way, Alicia Taylor was the announcer.
Oh, it was Alicia Taylor. Well, she was great too. On the, I thought it was Samantha Irvin. So I think they're both great. Then we have the DX segment. So DX comes out, and Kurt Angle is wandering out with them, and Angle is not identified, and
you're just left with the feeling like, what the fuck? Like, why is Kurt Angle in the background with D-Generation X?
Well, you know what I had faith in? I knew that the punchline would be really bad, but even I did not expect this. So
we're going to disagree. I can't wait.
Fine. They all line up, and they do the crotch chops. Dude, Kurt Angle did the oldest man crotch chops you could possibly imagine. Like, it was a struggle for this man. Like, this was your grandfather trying to do crotch chops. Like, he just his hips do not bend that way, and his arms should not be extending in that fashion. I mean, the DX act, it's pretty basic at this point. But
you ever see an Olympian crotch chop? Come on, they don't do that.
Well, so his whole purpose here is that Road Dogg does the introduction, and as he goes to introduce the badass Billy Gunn, he catches himself when he realizes it's Kurt in the ring and not Billy Gunn. I don't know if anyone has ever confused Billy Gunn for Kurt Angle in their careers.
Yeah, I haven't.
Kurt says he always wanted to be in DX, and he takes off his shirt, revealing a DX t-shirt. Hunter says, well, you've got to pass a test. And he asks, are you ready? And Kurt asks, is that the test? And that was like a genuinely funny response that Kurt had. And I think Waltman just like howled at this response. So they go to do the let's get ready to suck it, but they are interrupted by Imperium. And Imperium comes out calling this filth and nonsense. Gunther calls them degenerates that mock this great sport. And we're going to kick you out of the ring unless one of you can do something about it. So Hunter stands up to Gunther. Again, in 2018, he's pedigreeing this dude, and he's just leaving him laying. But in 2023, Hunter's like, I'm retired. I can't do this.
He backs down.
Yes,
from Gunther.
dude. Even post health issue Hunter, I was amazed that he did this. Like, this was a guy that just did not do this. This was not in the Hunter DNA of his character.
I think like Booker Hunter, Chief Creative Officer Hunter he's not competing with these
This is
guys.
Leather Jacket Hunter, though.
True. But like he in no way is like even in the same ballpark as these guys. In fact, these guys are extensions of him. Gunther.
This was more of a solidified retirement for me than when he announced it at WrestleMania last year. And all the health issues. He cannot wrestle. This moment of him just backing down to the gun, like this guy is 1,000% done.
Gunther is Triple H's baby, one of many. To think of. It's funny to think of like Gunther.
There were a lot of other people's babies
swaddled.
that ended up just getting just destroyed by this.
Well,
individual.
Gunther, I would contend is probably one of his favorite babies. Look at the pedestal he's been placed on SmackDown. Since Levesque's taken over. So this was him shining a spotlight on one of his favorite projects.
So then they shift their attention to Michaels, and he just says, "Did you see my match in Saudi Arabia?" No, he says he's too old. Waltman explains he's hurt, and then Road Dogg walks up. He's like, "I'm not even going to pretend." And Hunter calls him Butterbean. So DX huddles, and they nominate Kurt to take on Gunther. But Kurt turns it down, and he wishes someone was here to fight Gunther. So Seth Rollins comes out. DX is humming away at his theme. And then Waltman says they need a team to join Seth Rollins. So the Street Profits come out, and we've got 3-on-3. But Hunter says, we need someone to make this official. And don't look at me. This booking stuff isn't easy. I just wish someone could make sense of all this. So Teddy Long comes out and says, "This was my spot, playa." And he makes a 6-man tag team match. And Michaels adds that we need someone to oversee this chaos. And Kurt insists he has an idea. And he has a third t-shirt underneath of a red, white, and blue referee's shirt. And the Captain America float, Kurt Angle, was here to referee the match.
So what were you upset about? Like, it sounds like you love this segment. Like, what?
I didn't
like,
even say I was.
But who did not come across like a star here?
I felt Kurt was a total goof, but that's how Kurt is handled. He's the goofy character.
In this context, like, that was the shtick. It was like. So you don't have a full DX roster. You have a Kurt Angle that's just kind of lingering without, like, you only have so much TV time that you probably don't otherwise have a space for him. So you
cannot argue with we're hurting for television time. They have plenty of television time. They did not have an idea for this guy beyond this.
He would have been playing poker. It would have been his idea. Okay. And like, so the gag.
Those are not the only options you have. Like, you don't sit down and saying, okay, we have.
But
poker.
not everybody can get a spot. Like, DDP can't have, like a focused on promo segment.
So why is he here? Why is he on the show?
To fill out the roster so that it feels like it's a bigger party. And like, why are the Bellas here? Sure. But like anyway, like for these types of shows, you can't just announce like 10 people. Like, you've got to announce 20 to make it feel like, like festive, I suppose. But anyway, you had Kurt Angle. Didn't have a necessarily like, a segment to dedicate for him. So the gimmick of this segment became Kurt Angle wants to join DX. And I thought they like presented it wonderfully. Like, it was, they didn't mention it until like, they just said Kurt Angle pretend like nothing was wrong until like the Road Dogg roll call. And he became like one of the funniest parts of this entire segment.
He was funny. He was entertaining in the role. So he's the referee for Imperium and Rollins and the Profits. And I thought they had a really entertaining match here. They went 13 minutes. I will mention, though, this was the second match of the night beginning at 9:35 p.m.
Again, like, on this show, I didn't mind, like, because the talking is arguably more important for this sort of, like, nostalgic show.
I enjoy good segments. I love the trial segment. But on this show, by the third hour, it was like, I think you need more of a balance in 3 hours. I
guess for this one, because like you have so many legends, but like you also have that Sami Zayn Bloodline segment that
I have no complaints about that. That I have no issue of like that could have taken up 45 minutes, and I don't think I would have been complaining about it. That was tremendous.
Yeah.
But over the course of a 3-hour show, I feel that you need to have a better balance of this.
I personally feel like it's more important to have like engaging TV segments, and I'm happy if these segments are good, and if the segments ultimately build to me wanting to see a bigger match, I'm happy to not have as much wrestling on the TV show.
Well, again, as I said, I really enjoyed the first 90 minutes of this show. I think we can argue about what was engaging for the remainder of this show. But this also featured Jerry Lawler on commentary, where he just asked, "Where's Cole?" And they said he's home drinking. So this was Jerry Lawler, who noted he's wearing the same outfit he did from the first time he appeared on Raw. And Graves asks Jerry Lawler if Gunther reminds him of anyone in his career, and Jerry Lawler had no answer. He just said, yeah, he's scary. And Lawler was here, like, the guys had like 5 years to build up all his one-liners, all pretty much at the expense of Kevin Patrick. And that was like Jerry Lawler's roast of Kevin Patrick. That was 13 minutes of Lawler here.
He just kind of went to his, like, Irish joke book and took them all out here.
So the big tease here was Gunther and Rollins, which got involved at certain parts. And then the Profits doing ankle locks, Rollins doing the angle slam. The Profits fired up with Tope con Heroes to opposite sides of the ring. And then the Imperial Bomb gets stopped. And Rollins scales up, superplexes Kaiser, and then passes him off to the Dawkins. And Ford hits a blockbuster off the shoulders. And then Rollins counters a powerbomb by Gunther, hitting him with the pedigree. And we get the sky high from the heavens and a stomp to Giovanni Vinci. 13:03, Rollins gets the pin. Really enjoyable match here.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. You took like what works about like the Street Profits sort of like hot tag, high flying style, and you mixed it with Seth Rollins, who is able to kind of have great matches pretty much like in any sort of like configuration. And this was a wonderful 6-man tag just to kind of see them blend their, types of like high flying together, to create just, I think it's like taking two good drinks, John, and pouring them into a wonderful cocktail, that, you might end up serving to a friend. Perfectly mixed.
Very nice analogy. Baron Corbin beats Ted DiBiase and wins all of his money, which there's certainly a commentary to make there of DiBiase's money. IRS reminds them that they have to pay their taxes. So I don't know how the state of Pennsylvania dictates what is taxable, but he took everything here, save for $100 that was left for Corbin, and Simmons got to say, "Damn."
Yes, he did. Yes. Yeah, this was one of the lazier ones, but I guess that's to be expected. Like I feel like in prior editions, they would have all been like this. All these celebrity segments would have been like this sort of like, I don't know, predictable and just nothing.
Kathy Kelly interviewed Bobby Lashley, and Theory's got no excuses and no way out tonight in their no DQ match, and he would still be U.S. champion if it weren't for Brock Lesnar. Did you like this line being in there? Was it too much of a telegraphing for the end? I actually didn't mind it because I think it like planted the seed as well for people. And
I think you want to kind of lead people towards that direction. It's okay if they expect it a little.
MVP then enters and says he has no doubt that Lashley will win tonight, and Lashley explains he doesn't need his help or Omos's help, and he's going to win tonight and handle business on his own. Well, maybe he's going to need some help after tonight.
Maybe. So they're going to Brock versus Lashley again, and who's heel? Is it Lashley?
It depends.
Is Brock a heel now? Or no?
Well,
Brock's
Lashley's probably going heel with the Hurt Business.
Yeah. I'm just a little confused because it felt like, certainly like at least that first week, it felt like MVP was leading maybe like a babyface version of the Hurt Business, but that's not happening. I don't even know.
I think we're getting a heel version of the Hurt Business.
Right. Okay. So Brock, to me, Bobby Lashley very clearly turned heel after the Brock match in Saudi Arabia. Then he just like went back to being a babyface for a few months. Now we're going to that was just a detour. He's back in the other side now.
Yeah. Brock brings out the worst in him.
Okay.
Ric Flair comes out. Diamonds are forever. So is WWE. And the greatest gift WWE has given him is watching his daughter exceed all of his own accolades, and introduces the greatest female champion in WWE history. So Charlotte comes out, thanks her father, and then Charlotte comes to the ring on her own, and she lists off different opponents she's beaten, including Ronda Rousey, who gets booed, and Raw will always be her home. And Belair comes out. Belair respects Charlotte, but this is her show, and Belair is going to make sure Raw is the greatest show on television. Goals are nice to have.
Greatest in what way?
She called it she wants Raw to be the greatest show on television.
Oh, greatest in what? In length? Yeah, it's that. Sure. Like it's in what other show is has been 3 hours a
I mean,
week
other
for-
sports, but I guess, of a scripted nature. I don't think anything's going 3 hours on a weekly basis, is there?
Okay, well, greatest it seems like it's whatever.
In the eye of the beholder, certainly.
But what did you think of the Flair, interaction here? I mean, I thought it was kind of like Hogan's, get him out there, show his face, and then just get out. And I thought it was probably like about the best, use you could have had of a Ric Flair, given, certain controversies, but not that they seem to care at all. And not that the crowd, I think, would have reacted poorly, but like, it's to serve the spotlight for the current star.
Yeah, I think it's a balancing act because we've seen the pendulum go the other way, where you've come out of these shows and it's all about the big stars were from the bygone era that overshadow these current stars, and they bring them in and they destroy the guys and they overwhelm everything. And then this one, it was certainly a concerted effort to put more of the focus on the talent, which I applaud that direction. I'm going to take that direction over the former. I think, though, the balance is that there's a lot of people tuning in that I think they want to see the legends featured prominently and featured in memorable appearances that I think you can serve both masters. It doesn't have to be, pedigreeing your upcoming talent while at the same time delivering something memorable if you are tuning in for any of these big legends that you want to see in a bigger position rather than just bring out and wave to the crowd.
And it seems like they certainly tried to make that effort with DX, with Kurt Angle, with The Undertaker. You question, well, should they have done more with Hulk Hogan? Should they have done more with Ric Flair? Part of me feels like because maybe like of particular controversy surrounding the both of them, maybe they didn't want them to, overstay their welcome.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfectly logical reason of having that concern of using them too much, that it's going to, especially right now with the climate surrounding this company, of using figures that are going to generate that attention for yourself for sure. So Sonya Deville comes out and she runs down Belair and Charlotte and says that she used to run this show. I'll take her word for it. And Flair defers to Bianca Belair to take care of Sonya. So it's going to be Bianca against Sonya. But I think the backdrop here is kind of focusing on Belair and Charlotte as a possible showdown. That was what you were left with at the end, is both feeling they're the top star on their show, and this being a possible Mania direction.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And maybe Rhea going somewhere else for Mania, if you're looking at that as a Rumble winner.
Yep.
They are re-releasing the clips that they made, the trailer parodies from WrestleMania 21. These are going to be re-released because WrestleMania this year is going to be in California, and WrestleMania 18 years ago was in California. My question would be, how about we make new spots to promote this year's show instead of releasing commercials from 18 years ago?
Yeah, I agree. Completely
agree. These were awesome spots in 2005 for the show I bought in 2005. Why are we making a big deal out of re-releasing these online?
That's a great question.
Let's come up with a new batch for this generation and modern references.
There are a lot of movies out there.
A lot of movies have come out in 18 years. There's a lot of parody material that could be done for this year's show instead of promoting WrestleMania 21. I was very perplexed by this.
Well, this is cheaper.
I guess we're also going to be putting out the Barker Channel's feed for WrestleMania 3, the countdown. We're going to put that out as well. Yeah. And come back. We're going to announce the tournament participants for 4. Bianca and Sonya Deville. This crowd was this was their come down match. It was 8:25, of which half of it was spent in the commercial. Belair hit a handspring moonsault and hits the KOD and wins in 8:25. There was nothing all that big that stood out for me in this match, but it was a clean win for Belair, and then cut a promo on Bliss stating that this is a preview for Saturday. You can bring Uncle Howdy, bring the Funhouse, and then Bliss appears on screen and says, "I'm the only obstacle. I don't need Bray Wyatt or Uncle Howdy, and I will spare your eyes when I claw your face out." That's considerate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So...
Yeah, of all the programs that they were trying to build to at Royal Rumble, I think this one felt like the most shortchanged, unless I'm forgetting a match that, is not even, did not get any sort of representation. But, this felt very cold by the end of this show because it had no nostalgic, attachment to speak of. No kind of real special attraction thing. It was a showcase of Bianca Belair, but it just felt like any other Raw. And then you just had a promo from Alexa Bliss that kind of felt like any other promo you would have had on a regular edition of Raw. My other concern coming out of this is how do they expect people to have any sort of interest in Sonya Deville challenging Charlotte Flair? I mean, it was already a tough act to begin with, but then I don't know. You just
when they did the clean win for Charlotte a few weeks ago, and now we're revisiting this. I mean, it looks like it'll just be a SmackDown match. Like I don't think they're even going to do it on the Rumble on Saturday.
I guess why even waste time to tease it? Yeah. Why dedicate any storyline time with it?
Well, I'm wondering if this segment was sort of a like if this replaced anything that was to involve the Bellas, because. So this is from Andrew's story, and I have not watched their video. But apparently they went on Instagram Live and spilled the tea. But this is from Andrew. It said that among those advertised for the show were WWE Hall of Famers, the Bella Twins. The pair did not appear on the program, but took to Instagram Live and weighed in on the show. Nikki brought up how the women's evolution was not showcased. Nikki and Brie mentioned the likes of Mercedes Moné and Saraya as names WWE did not want to mention or show. And so they don't really go into it about like what they were going to be involved in. I would imagine like they had some kind of segment in mind, but for whatever reason, they did not end up appearing on the show as advertised.
Okay, interesting. Fightful reporting also that the Bloodline Trial segment ended up going long, and several segments had to be trimmed. And it affected Bayley versus Becky the most.
All right. I wonder how long, like you would have figured that cage match would have gone long, but that would be surprising that they would just cut out the match entirely. But I mean, if it depends on like how much time was budgeted for it. And that was a very long trial segment. Like they went like over a half hour or roughly. Mm-hmm. Then from there, we go to Cody Rhodes, and this is our last video before the Rumble. All the struggles he's gone through, his rehab footage, and nothing can stop him at the Rumble. Being in the ring is like oxygen, and he really needs to breathe again. And we had a quick shot of Pharaoh as well that made it into the video.
This was not quite, beautiful day, you two. But, I think it ends a pretty successful series of vignettes that, is probably bound to make that entrance pretty big at the Rumble. What's your feeling? Like, how hot do you think Cody is heading into the Royal Rumble?
I'm not going to say it's red hot, but that statement might sound foolish if we see him on Saturday. Like, he's going to get a giant reaction, and I guess it's really how he's handled in the Rumble. I'll say that at this point, I feel this needed like a really big promo from him on this show. This was not it. It was just kind of the latest extension of these videos, which have been very nice. But I wouldn't say it was like the big promo where everyone's rooting for this guy.
Agreed. I thought like by the end of the show, this video was certainly an afterthought. I would have liked to have seen him, come out here, make an appearance, cut a promo, for instance, or just even, I don't know, maybe send something in that felt a bit more lively than just kind of like this edited video. Because by the end of the show, I wasn't really thinking about this a whole lot.
2K23 trailer. It's all built around John Cena and his showcase this year. Bad Bunny is a character you can get with the pre-order. Are you going to buy this game?
I don't think so. Maybe Evie will probably beat it.
Might. The Miz is out, and he asks why there's no Miz TV, no title match for him. So Kevin Owens comes out and stuns him, and it's Owens who cuts the promo that Reigns is guilty of holding the Universal title hostage for over 2 years. He gives everyone his word. He will do everything he can to change that and give them a champion they can be proud of, and he's going to just keep fighting until nothing is left. I will win the title or die trying. Which is quite a promise, and then stuns Miz a second time.
It wasn't too long ago where I could have seen the roles completely reversed between these two in a segment like this, with Kevin Owens kind of playing like, comedy jester and the Miz going for the championship. Thankfully, like, it's not the case anymore, and I think, under Levesque, they clearly see a very valuable role in the Miz as this sort of like mid-card guy that's just kind of there to be in mid-card comedy acts and to take stunners for a Kevin Owens going for the championship.
And then the last match, Austin Theory and Bobby Lashley, no DQ for the U.S. title. They went 14-21. They got a bunch of weapons involved, including tables, a chair. Theory used a fire extinguisher. They went through a pair of commercial breaks. Lashley landed a Judas effect, and then he goes for a spear and is met with a kick. The Hurt Lock is broken with a low blow, and then Lashley lifts up Theory, drives him through the table when Brock's music hits. And dude, I'm looking at the clock, and Brock is just like sauntering out. I'm like, Brock, you better hustle. Yeah. It's like, dude, time's ticking, and they have a hard out. So Brock makes his way down, F5 to Lashley, then F5's Theory on top of Lashley. Dude, they count 3 at like 10 seconds to go. They are off the air pretty damn quick as Theory retains the title. And this was a callback to our big Madison Square Garden match with Lesnar and Theory last year. Remember that?
I don't
mystery opponent for Lesnar.
I don't think we got to see it, so no.
No, but we got to see him F5'd off the Elimination Chamber last year.
Yeah.
So,
right.
yeah, it looks like Lesnar and Lashley is your direction. And, you know, based on his image on the poster, I figured this is the confirmation of Lesnar in the Rumble on Saturday.
Okay. I didn't notice that.
He is on the poster.
Oh, okay. Well,
or at least was on a version of the poster that I had seen. I would think that they make that clear.
Is Lashley in the Rumble?
I think so. I think everyone assumes he will be.
Okay. So, there you go. Yeah, I mean, Brock Lesnar is back. Bobby Lashley. So what are we looking at? Is it a Saudi match or is it WrestleMania?
Well, Saudi is not till after WrestleMania. They don't
right.
have that in between show. Otherwise, I would be thinking that as a possibility. But unless Brock's doing the Montreal show in February, I would think that that's probably
he's already in Canada, so you know you wouldn't have to cross any borders.
Yeah, it's a minimal trip for him. Maybe he can
like walk to Montreal.
Maybe it's a road trip. Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
Load
we're neighbors.
Load up the RV and take everyone over to Montreal. Yeah. So that was Raw. I don't want it to come off like I did not enjoy this show. I thought it was loads better than the show 5 years ago, which I thought was. I just feel like nostalgia. Like these types of shows are such layups to do. Like all it requires is like nostalgia, fan service, and a highlight of your current talent as well. It just seems like it's a show really hard to mess up, and they did not mess up this show. I liked a lot of the focus on younger talent, current programs. The Rumble felt like the focus, which you will recall the last time they did this, I think it was also a go-home show, and they would always book these on go-home shows that, to me, did not always push the pay-per-view all that hard. I still feel, though, that, and maybe it's a case as well, that it's the legends that they've chosen. I'm not even advocating for, like, we've gone through the Rolodex so many times over. Like, we just had a DX show, like, October they did that whole show based around DX. And it's just, like, a Hogan and a Flair showing up, to me, like, the bloom is off the rose there. And it's the same poker segments, and it's just, I think they've used up a lot of the capital with these legends, that it does sort of feel like that's, the guys who show up every so often, and it's lacking that specialness that you want for some of these figures. But The Undertaker, certainly, I think they did a really good job with that segment with LA Knight.
The lack of specialness, with a lot of these acts, when they showed the graphic, I was like, I was not excited about any single one of them because it wasn't too long ago that we've seen all of them. I totally agree with you that they've kind of exhausted it.
Like, put Brett on commentary for a match like that. I'm all ears.
Brett and Sean on commentary, why not? But it's because of that reason, John, that I was so impressed by this show, because I thought, for the most part, for almost everybody, they either, kept their appearances at a very small minimum, just simply, showing their faces and introducing the show, or introducing Charlotte, for instance. Or in other cases, they found ways to refresh those acts to make them feel new and entertaining again, and that certainly includes The Undertaker, this time going for the American Badass persona. I thought it included DX. I thought this was one of the best DX segments in years, where I legitimately laughed at a lot of like the jokes that they were making. I thought it was a fresh role for Kurt Angle, and I thought Kurt Angle, yeah, he's the jester, but at this stage, he should be the jester. I've
always said, like, he's a great comedic character, and he plays the jester really well. And I think it just comes down to you and me looking at, like, I just look at Kurt Angle as someone that I would position as, like, not that comedic role, but he's very good at it. And that's obviously,
I would have agreed with you like 20 years ago, or 20 to 15 to 10 years ago. But at this stage, like, he should be. I'd argue almost all these guys. You shouldn't necessarily laugh at them. You shouldn't be laughing at the Undertaker, for instance. But they should be in segments that are personality heavy, and they should be entertaining. And I thought he was both those things.
Yeah, I don't think people want to see any of these legendary figures in embarrassing situations. I think that's what you want to.
This was not
withhold
that
them
at
from.
all for Angle. No.
So that was the show. I think it was like it did accomplish quite a bit. Like where's kind of your level of interest for the Rumble? I will say for the Rumble matches itself, I do feel it's the same trap of just relying on the history of the match that people are interested in it. I can't say they've really hit it hard other than it's the big show and everyone knows it's a big show and you're either watching it or you're not.
Yeah, I would say the storytelling, like individually for the entrance in the Rumble outside of Cody, like has been bad. You know, you have like, especially on SmackDown, and the women's match, almost nothing outside of like Liv Morgan coming in first, and even that they haven't really hammered home a whole lot. It's the type of match that just kind of sells itself, on the match type, and coming out of it, it'll probably be a winner other than Cody. Like in the women's side, maybe somebody that has received no focus. Like the Rumble is very much like for some people a jump start to a story. So
you know what it is, Way? It's the guaranteed revenue Rumble, okay? Where we're getting paid the same amount from Peacock regardless. So this is the guaranteed revenue Rumble. But that is coming up on Saturday night, and we will be live right after the show to go through all of the happenings in San Antonio, Texas.
A lot of super chats coming in, so we want to thank people in advance for joining us live, all of you, and especially those of you who are kind enough to support the show if you enjoy it. We are live after every Raw, after every Dynamite, and if you want to join us after every SmackDown and Rampage, consider joining the Post Wrestling Cafe, postwrestlingcafe.com, video.postwrestling.com. It's the best way to support the site, and also you get a bunch of bonus shows on top of that as well. So other ways to support the channel, of course, are to send your super chats, and that includes Eric Chung, who sends $5 to say Happy Lunar New Year in good health. Thank you, Eric. Totally agree. Let's go to Nice Salmons, who sends $5 to say, it might have been said already, but the Trial of Sami had the scent of Vince on it. I enjoyed it, but I couldn't help but smell This Is Your Life.
Oh, I disagree. Like callbacks to the past, weaving in clips over multiple months to try and form a present day narrative of where you're going. I disagree that this had the scent of Vince on it.
I mean, what is the scent?
And this also didn't, I didn't find this to be comedic. Like I was like, this was a more
some of the evidence, like the Paul Heyman thing was like, he was very over the top and doing the show. But you're right, like it was not nearly as
it was not being
funny.
done for laughs. Like you might have been like, here's a guy, like you can poke all these holes in his prosecution, but this was not them out there trying to do comedy with the audience.
I feel like when we say like, it's got a smell of like Vince and a smell of This Is Your Life, maybe what we're trying to say is this was a long talking segment in a professional wrestling show. And I feel like it should smell like Vince because Vince has been responsible for, how many years? 30 years of Raw. So this show ultimately is still Raw, and you're going to get long talking segments on special occasions. And this was thankfully a good one, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, I was not bored during that segment, and other than like the opening, like they were in the ring by probably like 5 after they're making the entrance, and that segment went till about 8:30 before we went to the tag match.
The Advocate sends in a $10 super chat. Thank you so much, Advocate, for that support. He wants to say about the Bloodline segment. Fantastic segment. Sami Zayn and the Bloodline are the best thing going on in WWE. I'm thinking they have to have Sami versus Roman at Mania rather than the rumored Cody Reigns match.
Well, it could be either one of those. It could be neither of those matches. I certainly look at it that there are a lot of different pieces that will almost guarantee some segment of the audience will be furious with whatever direction they go in.
Yeah. Again, like speaking strictly from like, their type of thinking and how they like to present WrestleMania as, again, the type of show that grabs eyeballs and grabs people's attentions that aren't watching week to week. I don't see them looking at Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns as that attractive, match. Like,
is is the pursuit of the tag titles by Zayn and Owens enough to close like a first night of Mania? Can they build that up to be big enough for the first night? If you're going with the impression of Reigns defending the title once.
It's an interesting question. Yeah. What, like, if there's one Roman Reigns match, what do you headline the other show with? I don't think so. And that's not because people don't like Sami Zayn. It's because the tag team championships, even though the Usos have done such a great job with them, I don't think the tag team championships are important enough to headline a WrestleMania. They're not there yet.
What does it mean though in this day and age to like it's more so a sign of respect of going on last. It's not as though this is selling more tickets or it's placement. It's placement of the match. And I would argue like this tag title program, it's been built up a lot more significantly than we had last year with Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch.
Yeah, I guarantee you, if you save that match for last, nobody is going to leave the arena, and your diehard fan. Well, I say nobody that watches wrestling regularly. Now, is that going to captivate casual fans enough? Should you be, trying to satisfy casual?
You're
fans?
picking the best match, and I say Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair because a lot of people were advocating for them going on last year, right. And they ended up going with what was the hotter match, which was Austin and Owens, and they made the right decision. But it's one where I think like people were more than accepting of Becky and Bianca being in that slot last year, and this is and that was built up over several months too when you had like the SummerSlam return by Becky. But this Usos thing has been going on forever, and you've got a red hot story with Owens and Zayn. It's something that if you were somebody that it's more to me of a consolation than anything for the Sami Zayn supporter that here are Owens and Zayn, and it's the feel good moment of night one to close with the tag title run ending. That I think it's a cool moment that if built up well enough, which so far it has been, like you could pull the trigger and it could be as big as that for night one.
I think it's very possible. I think there's no doubt you could. Well, if it wasn't titled Elimination Chamber, I would say that there's no doubt you could headline that particular pay-per-view with that particular match. But, like if there is a temptation to put that match on Elimination Chamber, what do you do for Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens at WrestleMania? Is it better to peak them and their celebration for that show?
Well, and the other sticking point of Elimination Chamber is like the status of the Usos. Of the Usos.
Right.
I believe specifically Jimmy, but that question as well.
Let's go to Matt Hahn, who sends $5 to say, I think the only way the Bloodline storyline could be any better is if Sami had won the Money in the Bank and he still had the briefcase.
I mean, we threw out that idea, like Sami Zayn wins Money in the Bank to protect Roman so no one else can have it. And I think the idea I threw out was like Sami wins it, and it's like you don't have him carrying it out every week. It's like we forget about the briefcase, and it's just that is the loyalty oath to Roman Reigns. Is that briefcase? You do not have this hanging over your head. It's in good hands with Sami Zayn, and it's always lingering in the back of everyone's head that was the winner. So that when to me it would have been a great tool, much better than just even if it ends up like he doesn't get to win it, but. You cannot argue that's not a better idea than what they had with Austin Theory. Oh,
most things I think would have been better than what they did with Theory. I think we're all assuming Zayn is going to somehow like end his association with the Bloodline before WrestleMania. Are we like neglecting the idea?
Hostile takeover.
What?
It's a hostile takeover, and they vote out the chairman, Roman Reigns.
Yeah, I don't know, but are we neglecting the possibility that Levesque would want to keep this going for another several months, maybe even another year, considering just the incredible chemistry that they all have together?
I think they're closing in on the time. You don't want. I think you want to catch the peak when it's at its hottest. Like that to me is when you execute like the fans want.
But we say this all the time about like tag teams. Like this tag team is doing so great together. Time to break them up. Is this not a similar situation where like you have such a wonderful unit together?
I think with a lot of tag team options, you don't have that. Like no one was saying, "Oh, man, I can't wait till the Hardys break up. I can't wait till the Road Warriors break up. I can't wait till the Midnight Express break up."
Some people were saying that about the Hardys. Some people would have said that about the Dudleys and Edge and Christian.
Well, it was. You can probably find someone that argues for anything, but I would argue for this one. It is like this is what everyone is captivated by. It's like the drama of when and who is going to turn on who. That you do have to pay that off at some point. It
I
will
agree.
like anything. It has its time, and you want to nail the timing on it. And I think like they're in a great position going into their biggest portion of the year.
William Robb sends $2 to tell us about Fightful, reporting that the Tribal Court segment went overtime. So thank you very much for that, and our thanks to our friends at Fightful. Davidian Alter sends a $5 just to support the channel, and thank you for being a channel member as well, Davidian. Thank you. And we go to Danny Kooks, who sends $2 to say, I was there live, and it was abysmal. It dragged. So I apologize. And again, I remind people, I had a very enjoyable viewing of the show, but I also happened to skip every single commercial break. So,
yeah,
that
and like you are booking these as well for like an arena of 14,000 people as well. And you know, the cage match, like if they were the victims of time, that's unfortunate. But you know, your audience is just they're there to watch. Like they're watching that cage hung over the whole night, and they don't get a cage match. Like I honestly believe, like as a make good for that audience, they should have given them like the dark match of. Do a dry run through of the match for the audience. The cage is set up. Go out and do 10 minutes. You don't have to do the full blowout match you had planned for TV, but give the audience what they had a week to build up and just lower the. It goes against the injury angle to Becky, but it's a dark match. Just do the 10 minutes, and I think you might be enough for like a spectator like Danny.
I wonder what
here
they did. Any idea what the?
I would have to double check, but I don't think they did anything after the show went off the air.
Okay. We go to Josh Cardenas, who sends $5. Thank you for the support, Josh. He says, appreciate your guys' work. Do you guys think Sami is in the Rumble? If not, the fans will turn on the Rumble match. We had spoken about that a bit earlier in the show. You might have missed it, but I think
I do think it's an interesting question because, number one, I would not want to leave it as it is now, where you're asking this question. If you're Josh, is he in the Rumble? Because then it's going to be this cloud hanging over. Is Sami in there? If you put him in and he is not winning, that's definitely a risk you are running. Of if you don't have something satisfying, the wrong guy gets eliminated, and that audience can turn on things. Like we do have that precedent. If you don't put him in the Rumble,
or just to kind of carry on that previous one, you put him in before Cody. You put him in. He gets eliminated by somebody in the bloodline, perhaps. You know, something relating back to his own story, just kind of paving the way for Cody to get all the babyface attention. Yeah.
It's also a stadium setting as opposed to an arena, that it is a bit different as well in terms of the, you're not going to have, I feel like, as much of a revolt as we saw at some of those Rumbles that were in like sort of the more intimate arena settings as well. But the other option is that you just make it clear on SmackDown he is not in the Rumble, and you eliminate that question for people going into the match.
Last one here, again from William Robb, sends $2. Thank you, William. He says, William Rab, I'm sorry. He says, would you have Austin win the Rumble if he is in?
If you have the commitment and he's doing Reigns, yes. What bigger buzz could you have coming out of the Rumble than Austin winning? You're going to do a monster. First of all, they're going to do a monster number this week, and they're going to do a monster number next week as well. Like Rumble, Raw after the Rumble is always among the biggest shows of the year, numbers wise, for them. Austin winning is, if he's doing the match with Reigns, he should win.
So here's a question, because it's a unified championship, and I don't know if they did this last year, but like, do you have a men's elimination chamber?
I guess it's all in how. So last year it was Brock that won, and then Roman defended the title at Elimination Chamber, I believe.
Oh, in the chamber match itself, right? Of course. Okay, so that does make sense. So they'll probably do that again.
Am I right? Is that how they did it last?
I'm pretty sure he defended the belt in the chamber. We watch a lot of wrestling. Our memories aren't so great, but like please look this up. I don't want everybody to just kind of flat out, but like I guess like I would have Austin, if he's committed, win the Rumble, because it's the easiest spot for him to get to a title match at WrestleMania because the man is not going to work in an elimination chamber. He should not be wrestling at all until WrestleMania comes. So
that's okay. So they had Roman Reigns. This is what the titles were split at this point last year because they unified them at Mania. So Roman defended against Goldberg at the Chamber, and then there was Brock was the WWE champion at this time. Remember? So he won the Rumble as WWE champion, and then defended it at Chamber. That was the title that was defended, and that was your Roman Brock setup. So anyway, to answer your question, I would assume that it is for sure a women's chamber match, and probably we get a men's chamber match that could be Roman defending it. Because I do not, the more we get closer to it, I do not like the idea of like the 2 nights of Roman defending. I think you build up to one big match, and that is...
It takes away from the luster.
I think the first one almost feels lame duck in some ways. That I could see that being like a women's chamber match, and then you have the men's... like you could have Roman defend the title in the chamber, which is they have done in past years.
Right. Yeah.
Feedback.
Let's go to one last one here from Ben Brisebois, who sends $10. Thank you so much for the long-time support, Ben. He says, Happy Lunar New Year. I haven't left feedback since feedback messed up leaving comments on pages, and you guys switched to the board. Good times. That was a long time ago.
That's a really long time ago.
Sammy is the best reason to watch wrestling. Well, we are glad you are watching wrestling and that you're still with us. So thank you, Ben.
Okay, let's finish up here. Chris in Ottawa. I watch WWE about 2 to 3 times a year these days, usually a big event like the Rumble, and thought they might put together a respectable show for the big anniversary. How wrong I was. I struggled mightily to stay engaged for the full 3 hours, and a big part of that was because of the crowd sounding like they are having the same problem. It was the din or constant murmur I'd expect from a baseball game, not a wrestling event. I have absolutely no idea how you both summon the strength to consume this show for 3 hours every Monday, let alone cover it and make it interesting for someone like me who watches. I'm left with the feeling that there is something very wrong with the people who tune in week after week simply for entertainment. I've never respected you more. You are true yeoman. 0 out of 10.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, well,
I wasn't that negative way.
Sportsnet, now DVR. I don't know if I'd be able to watch wrestling.
Can I just give a public applause to the new TSN player that now has a pause and rewind function that has joined the rest of the world?
I'm not willing to give it any sort of kudos, John. Like, first of all, we have to pay extra to watch Rampage.
Not yet. But that's probably coming.
And I don't know if the rewind is actually like. Don't you just have a small buffer? Like, you can't rewind to the beginning of the show.
You can't. I just watched it live last week, so I didn't have to try it. But it's got the rewind. If it's a rewind and I can't rewind, then it's not a rewind button.
Well, when I've used it, like I can only go back as far as like two minutes, maybe.
Oh my god! Well, then I take back my compliments. The Sportsnet player is very nice. Can we agree on that?
Great.
Like,
yeah.
I could go back 2 hours if I need to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's excellent.
You're up.
Oh, okay. We get a Kate from Montreal who says, tonight's Raw felt like a very stark reminder that the Bloodline story might be the only vibrant thing WWE has going on right now. I understand the call to let it run long, and I get that the Damage Control Becky feud has felt very cold lately, but it looks clumsy as hell cutting an advertised cage match. It feels like there were other segments that could have been trimmed a little to make room. I feel a bit sorry for Rollins, who seems hugely over right now, more than he has been in years, but who still isn't going to be included in discussions of who is dethroning Roman. Bad timing, I guess. In Seth's case, yeah. I mean, you want somebody who feels a bit more special, I suppose, and he's too much of a constant, I guess, to feel that way. You know, time away might benefit him greatly. You know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not too worried about Seth Rollins. Like, again, as I said last week, I think he is like one of the best things on Raw most Monday nights, and I figure he is going to be in something big at WrestleMania. I think.
Would you be like? What if that something was a match with Cody, another match with Cody?
I mean, if that's the way that the deck shuffles, like there is a storyline reason to do Cody and Seth. But unfortunately, now you have both in babyface roles. That's really tough to do that match. Like if Rollins was still a heel, I'd be certainly pushing for that in Montreal. Like that would be a great final step for Cody before he goes for the title at Mania. But things might not shake out that way. Muggin, the first hour was arguably the strongest first hour in years. Zayn's come to tribal Jesus meeting had me on my toes. Heyman and Jey Uso played the roles perfectly, and the tag title match that ensued was strong, complete with Sami earning a stay of execution. This has to come to a head on Saturday. Cutting the cage match soured me. However, the use of past stars to elevate today's roster was quite well done. I bet Hunter wants to make good on the bloodline spilling over their allotted time. If Becky and Bayley isn't going to be at the Rumble, what are we doing here? I don't know if they're going to add it like that. That's already like you have 2 Rumbles already. That's over 2 hours of time allotted. I don't know if they're going to have time to fit in. If they couldn't cut, say, the women's segment with Charlotte and Bianca and Sonya Deville to fit in that cage match.
Well, I would suggest maybe they wanted to save Becky and Bayley for another edition of Raw because it's attractive enough.
Yes.
To delay for another week. And
they have to promote it. It'll kick off the show. It won't get bumped.
Sure. Yeah,
we're not going to run out of time. We're going to start the show with
1 hour, an Iron Woman cage match between the two. Yeah, like I mean, I understand like people wanting the ultimate perfect best show, but like I guess I more so see them wanting to delay it because it deserves more time and not be trimmed down. In either case, it's like. The show should have been segmented better. It should have been timed better. And
let's also like put it on the performers too. Like you have a time and you're in charge of hitting your time. Like there's only so like you can be the best producer in the world, but it's live television and these performers are in the ring and they're having a great segment. It's like that's the old adage. If you're going to go over your time, it better be great. It was a pretty great segment, but that also falls on them. Like they're seasoned performers. And if you're allotted 20 and you go 30, I mean, that's, that affects the whole rest of the show.
Agreed. We go to Willow, who says there were 3 main things advertised for Raw 30, and none of them went as expected after seeing the ads at last week. But I should know better. As a fan going into the show unaware.
What were the 3 things beyond the cage match?
So the
Bellas?
No, the Samoan bloodline family thing. The other one.
I mean, they did change that around all weekend. They were promoting the new trial.
What was the other one? Like Lashley? Theory.
Well, Lashley in Theory, they did,
but.
They added a stip to it.
It turned into a no DQ.
Okay, that's not false advertising. That's building on something.
Well,
that's...
like with Brock Lesnar, I guess, anyway, let's continue. As a fan going into the show unaware of the acknowledgement ceremony being axed, I kept waiting for it, and it never happened. There was the cage match that never happened, as I now see that was cut for time. The main event ended thanks to Lesnar. Opening segment was great, but the rest of the hype didn't deliver for me.
I am sure the people enjoyed having Brock Lesnar as a big surprise at the end of the show, and I think that's what a lot of fans want. They want to see something important happen, and Brock showing up was important, and certainly beats just, like Theory slipping on a banana peel and beating Bobby Lashley. I mean, you got like a big finish at the end with a surprise appearance.
Yeah, like I think it's more topical, more newsworthy than just a clean finish, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Do you like that direction as for Brock?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, they have unfinished business, and I think it's a feels like a big match, WrestleMania worthy. Sure.
Who ends up with Logan Paul? Who would you like to see with Logan Paul?
Oh yeah, I'd love to see the Cena thing. Whether it be in a tag team setting or even 1-on-1 if they dare.
Do you see Cena doing like a real match at WrestleMania? That's where my hesitation is.
Yeah, I don't. Well, maybe
that SmackDown match to me, I was like, man, there's no way this guy's doing a 15-minute match at WrestleMania.
Yeah,
but
I don't think so.
Your idea was really good about the tag idea.
Yeah, same thing you did last year.
And to be honest, like that takes a load off of Cena. It's not all on him. Mm-hmm. Like you could do like Cena and Rollins together against like Austin Theory and Logan Paul. Like Austin Theory and Logan Paul, if Logan was willing to be a heel, those two would actually like gel together.
Something kind of tells me they would find another celebrity to oppose a Logan Paul.
Jon Stewart.
Jon Stewart with John Cena?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. Jake is fighting at the end of February.
Yeah.
He's doing a boxing fight in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, timing-wise, like, if you... I don't think Jake is...
that means you have to pay Jake Paul, and I don't know if he's just coming in...
I'm just saying, like, the idea of, like, Jake being in a corner or something like that, like, building off what they did in Saudi Arabia last year. Anyway, we'll have plenty of time to go over all of this in the next. I would say by the end of next Monday, we should have a much clearer picture of where they're going, at least for the key directions for some of your programs. But that's going to wrap it up. We went late tonight. How was game number 2 of 7? Way? Who won? Series tied.
There's the fans win.
I broke my nose, so I'm gonna have to wear a mask for the rest of the week. But that's it. Rewind Away dropped on Tuesday night for Cafe members. NXT TakeOver New York is the subject, so that is coming up for Cafe members, and then Dynamite Wednesday night, minutes after the show concludes.
And don't forget, up next, coming out tomorrow, Poison Rana, our friends here, will be live at youtube.com/postwrestling after the show ends, and also up on the audio podcast feeds as well. So do check that out tomorrow.
Okay, that's going to wrap things up for us. And as Paul Heyman said, Way, you're an Abula Bana Bala.